Welcome to the SharpStart Onboarding Series. Today's tutorial is an overview about reporting within MarketSharp.
Hello everyone, it's Romy here at MarketSharp, and today we'll be going over reporting. MarketSharp is a very strong reporting tool with many resources at your disposal, and we'll be going over a couple of those today. The first thing we'll want to go over is how to choose which method of reporting. The best way to determine which report to run where in MarketSharp is to really focus on the final product of the data and how we want it presented. If we're looking for a list of contacts that meet a specific criteria, such as a list of all the contacts in an area, that means that we're wanting to build a list of contacts, and we'll be doing that by creating a filter in the Contacts tab. If we're looking at a list of appointments, be they sales appointments or production tasks, those lists would be created in the Sales and Production tabs, respectively. If instead we're looking for numbers, such as how many leads, or tallies, like how did those leads perform, or dollar amounts, such as how much did those leads sell for, those numbers would be ran in the Reporting tab. So we'll head on over to the Reporting tab by clicking on it here. Once we're in the Reporting tab, you'll notice that there are two branches of reports, which are company reports and standard reports. And under those branches, there are four categories of general, marketing, sales, and production for organizational purposes. Standard reports came with your MarketSharp and were built based on industry standard for your use. There is some customization within them, such as groupings and date ranges, which we'll get into later. But for the most part, these are set. Just plug in your date range and go. Company reports are custom reports that were built by your company based on your specific company needs and standards. So just know that you are able to customize reports to review the data that you need when you need it. So let's go ahead and take a look at a standard report, specifically the sales report. You'll notice there are a couple of sales reports below it, grouped in particular ways. So if you wanted your sales totals, but per salesperson or per product, that information can also be reported on. For now, we'll go ahead and just look at the basic sales report. The next page, the report is asking for a date range. So let's talk about date ranges. A date range is how you choose which cross-section of contacts you're wanting to report on. I like to think of the question that we're trying to answer with the report. With the sales report in this scenario, our question is, how many sales did we make last month? So that means that we're looking at the sold date or the contract date needing to land in last month. So we'll go ahead and select our contract date range dot, go ahead and populate last month in our boxes here, and choose schedule report immediately because we're going to look at the report now. They're processing. It'll take a moment. You'll also see here that we have our historical reports that were run previously. That's done processing. We'll go ahead and click on our view box here to view the report. And here's our data. Taking a look at the report, you'll see the title and date range at the top. Then you'll see all of our sales in that date range and the details for them in the columns below. And at the very bottom, you'll see the company totals of those numbers. Now let's run this report again, but this time in the sales report by salesperson. So we get the same company totals, but they're grouped per salesperson. So we'll head back to the reporting tab, select our standard report, enter in our date range, and select schedule report immediately. Let the report process a little. And now we'll take a look. Now this report has additional information. There is a nice bar graph to kind of give you a more visual representation of the data per salesperson. So that's pretty nice. And then again below, you'll see that same data, but grouped per salesperson. Let's take a look at another standard report. This time, we'll look at the balance due report. This is a report that gives you a quick and easy way to see what jobs still have a balance and how much of that balance has been paid. So we'll head back to the reporting tab, scroll down to our standard reports. It'll be at the top of your sales reports here. Now you'll see there are a couple more filter options available. All records reviews all the records in your database. Incomplete jobs reviews any jobs which do not have a job completion date when the job completion date is blank. And then the bottom three here look at their corresponding date field in the contact record to see if it falls into the date range that we have set. You'll notice you can also group, in this case by job status. So in an example, if you'd like to look at the balance due of all of your incomplete jobs and then also see what job status those incomplete jobs are in, that is possible to set up here. So let's actually give that a report a run. We'll go ahead and select incomplete jobs with our grouping option of job status, and we'll select schedule report immediately. That does take us to the schedule view where the report will process. Once the report is done processing, we'll click on the icon in the View column, and here is our report. So here we have all of our jobs with no completion date that have a balance due. Also, if any payments were made with the job total amount and the contact, if we do want to reference them back in the Contacts tab as well. As with all reports, you are also able to export them. You'll see a drop-down at the top. I recommend for printing reports, exporting to PDF and then printing from there. You are also able to export to various Excel spreadsheet formats as well. Let's take a look at one last standard report. We'll go ahead and take a look at the lead cost report. A common request for companies is to know how much they are spending on their leads in marketing, cost per lead. The lead cost report helps document marketing costs as well as report on lead return. Again, we'll head back to the reporting tab, scroll down to our marketing reports in standard reports, and select the lead cost report. This report is a little different because you're also able to add what are called ledgers. Ledgers are the entries of marketing costs as they pertain to your lead sources. As you may have guessed, in order for MarketSharp to tell you cost per lead, it has to know how much you are spending on marketing. Ledgers within the lead cost report are where you enter that information. So let's take a look at one of these ledger entries. Date is typically the day that you paid for the marketing item. Description is a blurb explaining what the marketing cost was for, be it for a specific mailer campaign, specific ad run, or a show or event. Cost is how much you paid, and lead source primary and secondary ties that ledger to your leads. This is how MarketSharp knows what leads need to be tied to this particular marketing cost. Then division is also available if your company uses divisions. As with all reports, dates are key. Over on the left, you'll see two possible filtering options, inquiry date range and cost date range. Now, typically for the report to function appropriately, you would in one of these tiles have a date range, and in the other, you would have set to all. If you use inquiry date range, you're requesting to know cost per lead of all the leads that came in during a particular time, regardless of when you paid for the marketing campaign. If you use lead cost date range, you're wanting to know cost per lead of all the marketing campaigns that you paid for in a particular time, regardless of when the lead came in. And again, you are able to group by division if inquiry division is a field your company utilizes. So let's run the report. We'll do it based on inquiry date range. We'll do year to date. Then we'll leave lead cost filter set up as all, and we'll schedule report immediately. This again takes us to the schedule view where it processes, and then we'll take a look. So here are all the leads that have come into this database year to date, and then you'll see the cost breakdown over on the right. So you'll see cost per inquiry, cost per issued, per presentation, and per sale. And then it is grouped by lead source for organizational purposes with your company totals at the bottom. So those are 3 examples of commonly run standard reports. Now let's go ahead and discuss custom reports, also known as detailed reports or company reports. While reporting out of MarketSharp, you may run into situations where the standard reports don't quite offer what you're looking for, or you need more details or a different view of information. This is where you would build a custom report. In standard reports, you'll see detailed marketing and detailed sales report. These are the starting points for custom reports, here and here. Both are technically the same except for the sorting category on the left. So you'll want to give some brief thought to which one you want the report to save as for organization. In demoing this area, I'm going to build a report with a specific scenario, a lead performance report. There are a lot of different things that you can do with custom reports, so if you ever have questions about setting up a report, do not hesitate to call client care. So I'll go ahead and click on Detailed Marketing Report here, which will take us into our template. In the report, again, the first thing that you see is asked for is date range. Because this is a custom report, all date ranges are offered. So this is where you really want to think about that question that we're trying to answer. Definitely have that in mind when building this report. What date field do I want MarketSharp to look at? In our scenario, we're asking for the performance of leads that we're entering in a time frame. Because our benchmark is when the leads came in, we're going to use inquiry date range. Like standard reports, the next thing we're going to look at is grouping. Much like with date range, because this is a custom report, there are a lot of options. Group 1 is your primary, large grouping, and then Group 2 will be a subset category beneath it. In our scenario, we're going to do lead source primary for Group 1 and lead source secondary for Group 2. You'll also see that for companies that use division, there is a check mark available to group by division as well. Additional filter setup is offered for when you don't need all the contacts that fall in your date range that you have set. You're able to refine that to a more specific group, such as a specific group of salespeople. Like if you only wanted to look for numbers for an individual salesperson, or if you wanted to look at the numbers for a sales team. Same for lead sources. Maybe you only want to look at the leads that came from a specific internet lead provider, or a specific home show, or a series of home shows. But in our scenario, we want all the data in the time range, so we're going to leave this as all for now. Appointment setup is for companies that have a multiple appointment sales process. This allows you to define conversion appointment to appointment. So you would label the first appointment is a measure call, and then the second appointment is a sales call, and then maybe the third appointment is a showroom visit if it gets that far. This way you can determine ratios and percentages of which leads get to which step. In our scenario, we're going to leave them blank. Next are report columns. These are your tallies. This many of this many of that. How much of this? When setting up your report columns, the first thing you'll want to do is clear the slate by selecting Uncheck All, and then you'll want to choose what information that you want. Now in our scenario, we're wanting to see lead performance, so we're going to do amount of leads that came in with inquiries. Appointment set, we'll see how many appointments were scheduled. Presentation is how many appointments occurred. and total sold, how many sold. Let's also do dollar amounts. So we'll do gross $sign and net $sign. Then we have detail fields. Report columns give us general numbers. Detail fields give us the individual demographic information of what is tallied within the report columns. You may be tempted to skip detail fields as you're only focusing on the performance data, but I've come to find that having some detail fields is always a good idea, because if your data seems off or if you have questions about what came up in the report, with the info that you get from the detail fields, you can reference data pulled and maybe even head over to the Contacts tab to review the contact itself. So I'll go ahead and select Uncheck All, and we'll do a baseline of full name, address, city. We'll also go ahead and do inquiry date and time, because I always recommend having the detail field of the date range that you selected. This way, you know why the report grabbed the contact. Because we're doing performance, I'm also going to get some appointment data. We'll do appointment date and time, and result and result reason. We'll also do contract total, because we have the dollar amounts in the report columns. This will give us the dollar amount per contact. Now that we've built the report, it's time to run it and take a look. But first, I'm going to make a recommendation, and that is saving our progress before we run by clicking Save as New. This way, if we need to make any minor alterations or changes to the report, we don't need to start all over. Plus, this saves your settings as a company report for future use, so you can use it again whenever you need to. So I'll go ahead and click Save as New. Name this report Romy's Lead Performance Report. I'll go ahead and give it the description of breakdown of how leads in a time frame performed. Click Save. And now we're ready to enter in our date range and schedule report immediately. Again, this takes us to Schedule View. You'll see our custom title here. Then we'll click View to review the report. So this, based on the criteria that we have, is the lead performance in a time frame. You'll notice our lead source primary and secondary for Group 1 and Group 2. Here are those report columns that I requested per lead source. And when you scroll all the way to the bottom of these tables, you'll see our detail fields of all the contact information per reporting column. One last thing I'd like to go over is automatically running reports or scheduling reports. We now understand how reports work, but it would be nice if the ones we run more regularly, like ones with sales totals or numbers that we want to keep a proactive and close eye on, would run automatically and notify us when they're processed. That's absolutely something that MarketSharp can do. So let's take a look at our sales report again. Perhaps we'd like this report to generate every week at the beginning of the week automatically so that we can look at the previous week in review. In the report with date range, you'll want to select the days of the end goal data that you want based on the day that you're going to want it, even if that date is in the future. If I were scheduling a monthly report, I would select the first and last days of that month. I'm going to be scheduling a weekly report, so I'm going to schedule these dates, Sunday to Sunday. Now, instead of selecting Schedule Report immediately like we have been doing, I am going to click Schedule Report. Scheduled Start Date is asking if you are requesting the report immediately and are wanting to recur on this day of the week or month, or if you're planning this data for the future. With the dates that I have for my date range, I'm going to want the end product on the following day. We'll say at 8 a.m. So we'll say in the future for the following day at 8 a.m. Recurrence is the scheduling part. We're setting up MarketSharp to repeat this action automatically. The question is, how often? Every day, every week, every month? By selecting weekly here, I am requesting that every Monday, I want the previous 7 days worth of data in this report. Now these bottom 3 fields here are notifications. Email notifications that MarketSharp has processed the report and that it's ready for review. To confirm, MarketSharp will not be exporting and sending the report to these emails. This is just a notification that the automation is processed, and when they log in, the report will be available to them. Notify Me defaults to notify the person who is scheduling the report. Other employees are anyone whom is listed in employee maintenance with an email. And additional email addresses are if any persons or secondary emails outside of MarketSharp, you'd like them to get a notification that the report has processed. This is for secondary emails like personal emails instead of a company email that's attached to their account. By selecting Schedule Report, it will process, and then in Schedule View, you'll now see a pending report at the top with the date of when it is queued to process. If you were ever to want to cancel the automation, all you'd have to do is come here to Schedule View and click on the Delete button over here on the right next to the pending report, and that would stop it. So that is the basic introduction to reporting within the Reporting tab in MarketSharp. I do want to leave you with some parting recommendations for best practice. The first thing is to really get a clear picture of your end result that you're wanting when going into reporting. Really put some thought into what data are you trying to look at, the question that you're trying to answer. Having that defined will help you substantially in finding and building the report for your needs. The next thing is data, data, data. It all comes back around to data entry. MarketSharp only knows what you tell it. Now this may seem obvious, but it bears mentioning. All appointments need to be resulted in a timely manner. All date ranges need to be defined and accurate. Lead costing ledgers and job payments need to be entered in order for MarketSharp to report on it. Even down to setup, like drop-downs, like your appointment results and your lead sources. How those are set up will affect your reporting numbers and how your reports are run in the end. So it's something that you'll want to be mindful of and keep on top of. And as always, if you have any questions on reports or best practices, client care is at your disposal. Thanks so much for your time.
For additional assistance, please reach us by phone, email, or online. Thank you again for your time.